This will be for the con assignment, clusters, gaps, peaks, and outliers. So they want to know which of the following are accurate descriptions of the distribution below. Check all answers that apply. So that means there may be more than one answer. All right. So answer A, the distribution has an outlier. So the definition of outlier, it is a data point on the extreme end. Okay, it could be like a max or it could be a minimum. So let's see, looking at this dot plot here, we can see most of the data points are between 0 and 6, but then we have this one out here, all the way on number 10. So this would be an outlier because it's drastically different from the rest of the data points. So this is an outlier at 10. So A is true. Part B, the answer B, the distribution has a cluster from 4 to 6 days. Okay, so a cluster is when there's no number that's skipped. In other words, there's points for the number 4, there's points for the number 5, and there's points for the number 6. So this part right here is considered a cluster, and it goes from 4 to 6. All right, so there is a cluster from 4 to 6. Therefore, answer B is true. It has a cluster from 4 to 6. So both A and B are true. Of course, none of the above is not the case. Okay, which of the following are accurate descriptions? All right, here we have our histogram. All right, the distribution has an outlier. Let's see. All right, well, if I make this a little smaller, you can see most of the data is over here. Okay, but this right here would be an outlier. It's on the extreme end. Okay, it's drastically different from the rest. So A is true. It has an outlier. B, the distribution has a gap from 20 to 29 states. Okay, a gap would be when the data is missing. Data is missing. Okay, that would be a gap. So if we look at the range from 20 to 29, okay, that's right here. And clearly we do not have a gap. We actually have a cluster because there's data here and there's data here. All right, so there's definitely not a gap. So B is not true and C is not true. All right, which of the following are accurate descriptions? Part A, answer A, cluster from 33 to 37. Let's see. Okay, so here's 33 and here's 37. Okay, there is definitely not a cluster there. In fact, there's a gap right here. Okay, because the data is missing. So there's definitely not a cluster, there's a gap. So A is not true. Part B, a gap from 38 to 42. Okay, if we look at 38 to 42, there's all data points right there. Okay, that's not a gap, that's a cluster. All right, so B is not true either. So the answer is C, none of the above. Okay, check all answers that apply. The distribution has a peak at 6 hours. Okay, a peak would mean that it has more points than any of the other numbers. So if there were a peak right here at 6 hours, these dots would be higher than all the other ones. So a peak would be like the maximum number of dots for one number, but we can clearly see that's not the case. Okay, so there's no peak at 6. Cluster from 7 to 9. Yes, if you look at 7 through 9, there is dots on every number. Okay, so this is definitely a cluster right here. So in summary, a cluster is data that's grouped together. A gap is when data is missing. A peak is like the maximum height of the data. It's basically what the number that occurs the most often, or the range of numbers in the case of a histogram. Okay, and an outlier is a data point at the extreme end. In other words, on the extreme left or extreme right.